Sir, you heard the administration led by Donald Trump is actively pushing peace plans for major conflicts, especially in Ukraine or in Gaza. My first question would be to you. Do you think Trump's approach of pushing peace deals in multiple conflict zones, I mentioned two, simultaneously is realistic or over ambitious?
Thank you so much, Mr. Kanchan, and good morning to Norman, and good afternoon to all you all.
Good morning.
It's a very good question. Why American and especially Trump is taking the world leadership and he's negotiating everything like a very prompt, fast, non-structural, and it's like a fast-track business deal. You are telling me that. Well, there was 28 points initially discussed for the Ukraine-Russia settlement, and finally they came to 19 points. But obviously, the negotiator has to look what Ukraine wants. The Ukraine people's sovereignty, their independent, and how they negotiate. Till now, the negotiation points are not broadcast or it's not open to the people. That's also one point. Trump want to take the leadership. Of course, United States can do that. They're the most powerful nation in the world. But obviously, keeping that thing in mind, he has to understand what is the politics going on, Russia and Ukraine, also the NATO, and how the American will pursue them. Keeping all those things in his mind and looking the people's, sovereign people's demand, what are they gaining. Also they have to look the follow-up after the negotiation. Certain negotiation cannot hold for quite a long time. So he has to, excuse me, my throat is a little dry because of the winter season, changing the weathers. Well, negotiation usually happens when international organization they works. I have seen Trump trying to negotiate, bypassing the international organization. Like certain organizations are chartered for that reason. Let's say in the year 1944, the United Nations was built in New York by the side of the East River, and they have a certain duties to negotiate that. What we had followed earlier, the international organization, when they are trying to negotiate, it takes a long, long time. If you recollect your memory, the negotiation had happened in our country during the BNP time with the United Nations leaders came here. It was not negotiated. After 20 years, we fall back the same pothole. So United Nations takes quite a long time to negotiate. But Trump is trying to do it in fast track. But he is not following the norms and behaves what should be and what the people want. The war is not for one day. It, like Gaza war, it was from 60s.
I understand. As a politician, you have to face a tough question right this moment, because we know negotiation means win-win situation for both the parties. But here we see the negotiator himself is trying to give benefit to Vladimir Putin, to Russia, not to Ukraine. So it is not a win-win situation negotiation. It is a winning and losing situation, because Volodymyr Zelensky and Ukrainians has to concede 35% of their sovereign land. How you going to explain as a politician, as an academician?
Well, the earlier what I was trying to say, what Trump is doing, in a way, he's going very fast, and it's a non-structural. But in the meantime, we had seen some result. In Gaza, 75,000 people were killed. Everybody chip up their mouth. Nobody talks. The same thing, 3.5 years. The Ukraine war is going on. The whole world was affected by Ukraine war, but nobody was talking of that. In this regards, Trump came forward and started talking about it and trying to renegotiate it. That's a good sign. In other cases, Trump has to look what the Ukraine people want. As you said, 35% of the land they will lose their sovereignty, and they cannot go to the NATO. Why Ukraine went to the NATO? Because they want the protection. Is Russia will give lifelong protection to Ukraine? No. So all this thing has to be in consideration. And Trump is thinking his limited time is 4 years. Within these 4 years, he wants to be the world leader, world hero, bypassing UN. That's not the right way. Rather, UN also delaying technique is wasting time and wasting the world's economy, all those things. But finally, what I understand, we must understand the feelings of the Ukraine people, what really they want, why they fought for, what Russia want, why they are having the aggravation against their land, and they are trying to go and acquisition the lands of the Ukraine. All this factor has to be together. That's the reason certain negotiation cannot be fast-tracked like business. It has to take their time and reconsider all the points and then come and negotiate. You see, the small country, if they are not a part of negotiation, they are losing, and they are losing their, interest to be involved in this, question of the world.
Very structured, very structured.
Small country has to be invited, and they have to talk. If you don't allow, let's say Bangladesh is a small country, in future you don't allow the small country to talk their rights, their freedom, their sovereignty, then the world is going to be in other direction.
Sir, how does the Gaza deal reshape power dynamics in the Middle East regionally and globally?
Yes, this is a very important question. So far I see, first of all, I have to be hopeful to see ahead. I cannot go back, all right? In this case, I see hopeful. At the same context, I see it's fragile. Why I say fragile? Because the reason for this war, starting from 1960s and after 1920, Abraham Accord, that was also for negotiating the Gaza and Palestine problem. You see, the Judaism, Islamism, everybody sat together and they tried to negotiate their rights and values in the Arabian, in the region. But it didn't work. Why it didn't work? They have to look that very carefully. Well, Norman said, if Trump wants to be deal broker, or if he has an ambition in short-term negotiation, that would not stay for a quite long time. In this case, I see hope because Egypt, Qatar, and United States of America, they are involved there. Well, United States has the intention that the other big power like Russia or China should not be involved in this region. So that also they are looking ahead and they are keeping that in their mind. He is trying to move fast. But as an Arabian understood very clearly that if United States say stop as a big brother, it has to be stopped. Now, how they will prolong their country? Is there anything negotiating like hostage negotiation, prisoner negotiation, like Pantu said, the rebuilding Gaza, and the administration? Who will be the next administration? These things are untouched.
Nepotism is too much. We have seen in all the big political parties. One's father is a founder, he brought his legacy. Once someone is successful in politics, he brings his legacy, sons or daughters or wives or sisters, they bring. Don't you think that carrying this legacy put Bangladesh behind the development?
Well,
and one more question, are you planning to bring anyone from your family as a politician committed to the screen today?
Well, you see, this is a very important question, as you mentioned, the family legacy.
I call it nepotism, sir.
Well, nepotism has a competition also. As we have seen, the first Sister Awami League, she was carrying the legacy from his father, and finally she could not hold of it, and she has to flee the country. So family legacy could put them in drain and destroy their political, personal agenda, as well as the people who supported this fascist government. They destroyed, or she destroyed, these political legacy carriers, the people who support Awami League, and their fate also in dangerous situation because of the family legacy. Well, now come to other side of the coin, the BNP. Well, if you are a doctor, you want to make your son doctor. If you want to be a lawyer, your son could join in the lawyer. But when your son goes to the practice, he has to be a good practitioner. When your son became a son doctor, he has to be a great doctor to go with his practice. I mean, I clearly explain to you. Let's say you are a businessman. Your father, you inherited a business from your father. If you don't properly handle this business, one day it would be monster and destroy your whole father's legacy in one shot. I mean, family legacy doesn't mean that it will build his career. Let's come to our party politics, a BNP. If you want to mention that Begum Khaleda Zia and President Zia's legacy carried by the Tariq Rahman, come to the first point. The late President Zia Rahman, his legacy did not carried by Begum Khaleda Zia. Why I said it? Because the party was in a position there should not be regained, but somehow it stands again. The same way now the BNP is the largest democratic party in the world, and it is built.
Being a journalist and being a businessman, being an entrepreneur, you are so concerned. But why political leaders are not concerned? I want to do this question to a politician. Sir, you served to the nation.
Well,
thank you very much for your service to the nation, especially in the academic section, education sector. I want to know from you why the political leaders or the high officials of this country are not concerned about this issue, biodiversity and of course climate issue, why they are not able to negotiate with the world superpowers to bring back our rights to live in this planet safely.
You see, the world is getting imbalanced and our ozone layer is destroying by the developed nation, those who are industrialized. And they are using our world resource, the ozone layer and the eco-balance environment by the industrial nation, those who are leading the world. It is their responsibility rather than the responsibility of the small countries like Bangladesh. But it happens, everybody are facing the same music. So realization has to come by the developed nation. And the smaller nation like Bangladesh, who are facing this pain severely and devastatingly, we has to raise our voice. Domestically, our government, previous, past, current, every government has expressed their concern regarding this matter. But we have to raise our voice more clearly to get a better world and to see our future generation can live in this world, including all plants and animals and everything. I want to raise my voice as well as the next political government will raise the voice in United Nations and all others. You see, practically speaking, in Bangladesh, in the monsoon season, as he mentioned, the flood comes from the upper riparian and goes to the lower riparian. It destroys our whole countries. In the dry season, the saline water get into our paddy field, agriculture field, and it salinized our agriculture field, and it destroyed our productions of other agricultural products. And these are the problem with our neighbor country. We raised this point in United Nations in 1980s. Late President Zia Rahman raised this point.
Don't you want to acknowledge the failure of the leaderships?
Well, that I mean that the previous government failed to negotiate with the border country.
Only previous government?
Of course, I see that. It was a 34,000 cusack during BNP time.